One in every 3 teen girls will get pregnant each year. Today we're going to talk about the importance and the pros and cons of teens having access to birth control. The pros and cons of teens having access to birth control are managing safer sex, preventing health risks, and lowers teen pregnancy risks and unwanted abortions. Teens having access and knowledge of birth control methods are more likely to abstain from sex, and if they choose to have sex, they are doing it safely. According to Guttmacher Institute, as a pediatrician, every day I see firsthand what happens to teenagers when they can't get contraception and can't discuss it with their parents, said Vinnie Tulane, MD, Director of Division of Adolescent Medicine at the Orlando Regional Medical Center. We have to face the reality that a majority of teens will have sex by the age of 18, so we need to do more to help them prepare them to have healthy relationships, including providing information on how to talk to their parents and their partners about condoms and birth control and how to use these methods effectively. While teens have access to birth control, then they will practice safe sex. According to Guttmacher Institution, only 1% of all teens surveyed said they would stop having sex if they did not receive any condoms or birth control access. Out of all the teens they surveyed about having sex and notifying their parents, most of the teens would go without contraceptive and have unsafe sex, resulting in unwanted pregnancies and abortions. Teenagers' risks of pregnancy and disease are also affected by what they think about sex, contraception, and pregnancy, research reported. According to a study just published in Perspectives on Sexual and Reproductive Health, the more positive sexually experienced teens' attitudes about birth control, the more likely they are to use it and the less likely to become pregnant. But sexually experienced teens' attitude toward pregnancy are not associated with whether they become pregnant. Conclude that programs promoting positive attitudes toward contraceptive use rather than ones focusing solely on the negative consequences of becoming pregnant may be most effective at reducing teen pregnancies. Teens need to have a positive knowledge of sex and contraception. The more positive experience of sex will have teens not be afraid to talk to their parents and use contraception. Although the rate of teen pregnancy has dropped over the last decade, the Allen Guttmacher Institute estimates that nearly 850,000 teenagers still get pregnant each year, and the vast majority of these pregnancies are unattended. Although the pregnancy rates are low, the amount of pregnancies that occur with no birth control is too high. Teens need to have access and knowledge of birth control in order to stop undetected pregnancies and STDs. Although if teens do not have access to birth control, it can make them live a promiscuous lifestyle, encourage sexual behavior, and go against many religions or family beliefs. The cons of teens having access to birth control are because it encourages sexual behavior, promotes a promiscuous lifestyle, and goes against many religions and family beliefs. Access to birth control allows teens to engage in sexual activity and behavior. According to the Live Strong, for some teens, knowing that they aren't as much risk for sexually transmitted diseases and that pregnancy risks are greatly reduced, birth control encourages promiscuous behavior. Teens who may have otherwise practiced abstinence now have a reason to become sexually active. Teens think that if they are taking the pill or using condoms, it is okay to engage in sexual behavior. And having access to birth control allows them to have sex, even if they were going to abstain from having sex before they had access to birth control. Birth control also gives teens a reason to become sexually active. They may think that they could never get pregnant or have an STD just because they are taking the pill or using safety. Birth control also poses moral concerns for religious families. Some parents are outright against birth control for ethical reasons, according to a parenting article on Psychology's Today website. Since birth control is very controversial, having teens have access to it might cause family and religious problems. Some families want their teens on birth control, and others do not want their teens on birth control. According to Livestrong, a negative to giving your teen a birth control is the mixed message you might be sending. As a parent, you want to stress the importance of love, commitment, respect, and responsible behavior when it comes to relationships. Someday, your teen might become a husband or wife, and you don't want your child to have a confused view of sex and marriage. When you give a teenager birth control, you're condoning sexual behavior without knowing whether your teen has a healthy relationship outside of sex with the other person. Giving your teen birth control contradicts the abstinence that is taught to all teens. First, you are telling them to wait until marriage and abstain from having sex, and then you allow them to use birth control, showing them that they can't have sex. This then shows them mixed feelings and they will not understand. Giving teens access to birth control will lead them to live a promiscuous lifestyle. According to Livestrong, birth control encourages promiscuous behavior. If they are being taught to live a promiscuous lifestyle, they may never think different of how many people they sleep with. In the end, this will ruin and may even lead to a deadly STD or future. Teens should not have access to birth control because it encourages sexual behavior, promotes a promiscuous lifestyle, and goes against many religions and family beliefs. The pros and cons are both very important to know before deciding whether teens should have access to birth control or not. Today, we have seen the pros and cons of teenagers having access to birth control. There is no good solution to this problem. Many teenagers suffer from unintended pregnancies, abortions, and unprotected sex. Many teenagers also suffer from living a promiscuous lifestyle and thinking sex is not a big deal. It is hard to find a middle to both of the pros and cons to teenagers having access to birth control or not to have access to birth control. Birth control is a very controversial topic. Some people are for birth control and some people are against birth control. Sadly, there is no in between to help our teenagers stop suffering from unintended pregnancies, unwanted abortions, or living a promiscuous lifestyle. The only solution we have to this is to teach teens abstinence. Although abstinence will only go so far with some teenagers, our pregnancy rates for teens will stay the same since there is a big gray area, and you cannot force a teen to be on birth control when the parents do not agree.